Right now, we continue with our Furman soccer previews. Doug Allison has exited stage right, and Andrew Burr, the women's coach, is in the hot seat now. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, Dan.
Pull that
How are you?
microphone just a little bit closer to you.
I got you.
There you go. New year, you guys are a week ahead of where the men are, so you actually have the first regular season athletic event for the athletic calendar year at Furman coming up on Friday.
We do. We host the University of Richmond out of Virginia. Great competition, school very similar to Furman. They have a new coach there, Marty Beal, who just got the job about 4 or 5 months ago, and he's going to do a really good job at that program. So we're excited about the opener on Friday night. It's a little bit unique for us. The women's soccer schedule continues to get pushed forward on the front end. So, we reported on August 2nd, which is earlier than we've ever reported. So we've been on campus now for 2 weeks, and our freshmen have a really good feel for campus, and we're ready to play a game.
Well, we'll talk more about that game and the schedule coming up here in just a bit. But let's start with your roster and who you have coming back, and maybe more importantly, who you don't have coming back from the team that won the regular season in the Southern Conference a year ago. Things in the tournament didn't go, obviously, as you'd hoped, but you had a phenomenal regular season. And you had, obviously, as most teams do, you had some veteran leadership there.
Yeah, we really did. And, we're going to be fine and we're going to move forward, but you're right. You're always trying to replace players, and that's just like any sport. You're going to lose some. You're going to bring in some freshmen. The seniors from last year really gave loads of leadership. In the back, we were very solid. We had 2 of our marking backs that graduated. We had 2 center mids and 2 forwards that all left due to graduation. So, on the other side of it, there's some young players now that are seeing some great opportunities. We played Clemson the other night, and we had multiple kids playing that hadn't had a lot of experience. So it was great, and I think they're going to step up and they're going to fill these shoes. But there's players like Molly Dwyer, a senior for us last year, that just scored a boatload of goals, and that's now a void we've got to fill. And we've got the players to do it. It's just a matter of now them stepping up and doing it. But we're excited. We look at last year's season, what a great run, undefeated in SoCon play. I think we scored 20 goals and only gave up 1 during the entire SoCon season. So it was a great year. The bar was set high, but that's the way we operate. Is we want to see that, match that, and improve on last year's season.
Well, to do so this year, obviously, in any sport, there's changeover because of graduation. So tell us about the leadership for this current edition of the team.
So we've got some great seniors. Our 2 captains are Virginia Poe from Alabama and Maddie Kulik from Florida. And they're just on the field, off the field, great leaders. And they provide a great example for the rest of our group. Senior class is very strong, very tight. If we can win a SoCon championship this year, they will get 3 rings out of 4 years, which is pretty impressive for a group. So we're looking to them for some leadership. We've got some underclassmen that came on big this past year. Aaron O'Hearn in center midfield for us has just been a total stud. We played in the spring. We played Georgia and then South Carolina kind of back-to-back in about a week period, and we won both games. We beat Georgia 2-0. Beat South Carolina 1-0, and she was just a stud. She was great. So she's been providing some excellent leadership. We have Caitlin Riley, who's also another underclassman, and she's a goal scorer. She's an athlete. She leads by example. She would run through a brick wall for this team. So we've got players on the field, off the field that are willing to show the younger players, here's how Furman soccer operates.
This is Andrew Burr, the women's soccer coach here at Furman. As I'm looking at the makeup of your roster, one similarity to Doug's roster with the men, you have, seems like a nice mix of upperclassmen and underclassmen. The one stark difference that I'm seeing just by looking at where these kids are from, one international player happens to be from England, which would make Doug very happy.
Yep.
But whereas he has 5 international players, you have 1. Is that a normal difference in the women's game compared to the men's game?
I think it probably is. I think when you look at the men's game, the U.S. is still trying to catch up a little bit. And you saw, obviously, with the World Cup this past summer where our U.S. national team doesn't even qualify for the World Cup. On the women's side, the U.S. is still seen as the leader in our sport. So not only is our women's national team qualifying for the World Cup, but our team is winning the World Cup. So I think for us, going overseas is something we're going to try to do more of. But some of the countries overseas are trying to catch up to what we're doing in the
Right.
U.S. on the women's side versus men on the men's side. Overseas, the international game on the men's side is so strong. So we're excited. Ellie Perkins is a freshman for us. She's from just outside of London. She's been playing with Arsenal for the last 2-3 years as an amateur, and had to make a decision. Do I want to sign a pro contract with Arsenal, or do I want to try to get an education? Fell in love with Furman University, so we were thrilled to have her. She's not quite used to the 95-degree temperatures, and she's been wearing lots of sunscreen. But she's a great young lady. Her and her parents came over last week, and their first chance to visit Furman and see the campus, and just fell in love with it. So we're excited about her, and it adds a little bit of diversity to our group, and a little different culture.
Yeah, it's interesting when you can get kids onto this campus. That usually has that kind of effect on them, doesn't it?
I drove in the front gate this morning. This place is unbelievable. I mean, you know that.
Yeah.
I know that, but you drive through the front gate and the fountains and the flowers and the weather, it is beautiful. So yeah, getting them through the front gate, they fell in love immediately.
I told Doug when he came up before we started the show that he and just like everybody who comes up here, they comment on the view that I have out toward Paris Mountain. I said, I probably, given my nature, would charge for it, but that would make my buddy very unhappy if I, started charging people to come up and take in the view. But it is a gorgeous campus, and whether it's recruiting kids in state or from this country or from another country, one of the other things that always holds true is not only do they have to be an athletic fit here, but they have to be an academic fit.
Absolutely, and that's a huge priority for us. And we just did a little review of our team goals, and they're not my goals for the team. It's the team, the players. They come up with, here's what we want to achieve, and the very first thing on the list is GPA. They want to have a higher GPA than the average student at Furman University, the average student who isn't working a full-time job playing a sport. And that's something that we've done for the last kind of 10 plus years is our GPA. We take a lot of pride in that. It's been higher than the average student. Mm-hmm. So you're right. We want to make sure we get that balance. Our players recognize that it's a balance. We love soccer. We've got some unbelievable athletes, and we love these 90-minute games we play. But there's still a lot of other hours on this campus where our kids need to fit in, make friends, do well academically. So we want to make sure it's a fit for them across the board.
I asked this next question with a little bit of a joking attitude to it, but there's also a serious undertone to it. Those of us who are married know that it's very, very difficult to keep one woman happy. How do you keep 32 women happy?
It is not easy, my friend. It is not. So before I started coaching women's soccer, I had a big head of hair. It almost looked like a mullet. It was working for me, completely bald. I worried nonstop. It's nice during preseason. I got to sit with Doug and Brett and Tucker and Charlie from the men's team yesterday, and I got to sit at a table with all men. It was awesome. We actually had normal men conversation. Mm-hmm. But no, I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I've got, obviously, my wife, who I met at Furman. I've got 3 kids. My youngest is a daughter. Her name is Sophie. She's 12. But I really feel like I got 32 other daughters. Mm-hmm. And yes, the soccer is so important, but I care about these kids in the classroom and off the field. That's what it's all about. And there's a little bit of drama and a little bit of stress, but I would say very, very little. Our group is focused. There isn't a lot of arrogance to what we do. We're a little bit of a blue-collar group that says, let's just get our job done. So we don't have any drama on the team, which I like. But yeah, having 32 players can cause a little bit of stress.
Well, and the other aspect of it is, and you're obviously in a very good and in many ways a unique situation being a male coaching a female sport, that you have that kind of rapport, because I know from being friends and covering other men who coach women's sports. In some sports, among some people, there is a movement. They don't think men should be coaching women's sports. So for you to have what you've got going on here is really exceptional.
Yeah, no, I think it is. And it varies from sport to sport, I think, a little bit. I mean, I look at the Southern Conference right now. We have 10 teams in the Southern Conference. All 10 teams are coached by men, which I think is very interesting. And that's not the case for all sports. I think if you look at softball, it's probably dominated more on the female side. So I don't really know what the approach is. I think that either you can coach or you can't coach.
Yeah.
You can either relate with these kids or you can't relate with these kids. And regardless of the gender, I think it's probably irrelevant. I will say, and I've known Doug since the mid-'80s, and I played here. I know men's soccer well. I know our men's team very well. I would not last one day coaching our men's team. It is a completely different sport, a completely different approach to what you do. Mm-hmm. So it is interesting how, yes, it's the same soccer, same sport, but it's coached very, very differently.
I gotta guess though that in many ways the mentality is the same when Doug walked in here after commenting on the View. And of course, for those who don't know, my office is the football radio broadcast booth here. So we're looking across Paladin Stadium. He walks down to the first level so he could see the field, and the first thing he asked were, "How are our kickers this year?" So, which you know a little bit about.
Yeah. It seems like a long time ago, but I know a little bit about that, and certainly have so much to be thankful. My experience at Furman, obviously played soccer here for 4 years, but somehow a coach by the name of Jimmy Satterfield somehow convinced me to be the kicker for the football team. So I got to kick here for a year, and I look at this field, and it brings back goosebumps and fond memories of full stadiums and big-time games and getting to kick in front of a nice crowd. Coach Clay Hendricks was an assistant coach then, so it's kind of neat for the two of us to get to reminisce on kind of the glory days and what we used to do. And as he and I both played here, and then we're so excited about obviously the future of Furman athletics. And sometimes things seem just haven't changed a bit. You know, the sight of campus, the smells, just the sounds. It feels like campus. But then I look at some of these facilities and I realize things have really changed. Yeah. I mean, our facilities are unbelievable. He and I were joking, Alley Gym, which is going through a renovation right now, all 400 plus student athletes were out of Alley Gym when we were here. And we were just absolutely right on top of each other. We shared one sports medicine, one sports information. We're sharing locker rooms. We made it work and it was fine. But I look at what we have now and it's like, this is what Division I college athletics should be all about.
This is Andrew Burr. He's the women's soccer coach here at Furman University. You've had 2 exhibition games, both scoreless ties at Elon, at Clemson. I'll ask you the same question I asked Doug. How do you approach the exhibition games as far as what you want to see and how many different players you want to see it from?
Yeah, and certainly you see 0-0 or 0-0, as Doug would say. You might think, oh, that's not a very exciting game. We went into both those games knowing the score is borderline irrelevant. And it might be nice for a press release for Jordan to do, but outside of that, we really don't care about the score. We want to see what the character of this team is going to be. We want to see which individuals really step up and perform. And then on the other side, which players are struggling when it comes to the game environment. So, yeah, both great events. We played Elon up in Charlotte, and we went to a local club park there and we had 1,000+ kids watching the game, which is a great environment. We played 22 players in both those games, which was awesome. I was thrilled to get to play that many. During a traditional regular season game, we're looking at a starting 11 plus maybe 3 or 4 off the bench. So I might play 14 to 16 players normally. And these exhibitions got to play 22 players, which is what it was all about. And we learned a lot about our team. Going down to Clemson, historic Riggs Stadium. They had a nice crowd. It's Clemson, a beautiful stadium. That's a nice moment for our kids to be there and say, they're just like us.
Right.
They got Clemson on the front of their jerseys. We've got Furman on the front of ours. But a very good game, 0-0. They certainly had the better of us in the first half. I thought we did very well in the second half. Had 3 or 4 great chances that we could have had the game winner. But yeah, learned a lot about our team in those two games.
For a soccer novice who, as I was telling Doug, that he'd be proud of me because my wife and I really for the first time ever got really engrossed in the just completed World Cup and we're watching it, every time games are on, we were watching it and getting more accustomed to the game at that level and understanding at the professional level, at least in the World Cup, what the limited substitution patterns are. How does that translate to the college game? Are the substitution rules similar in the college game?
They are very different, and they're always tweaking to see if it can potentially go in line with what the international rules are. We have no limits on substitution. So when we play 22 in exhibition, we can do that in a regular season game.
And you can pull them in and out?
So you can re-enter in the second half. If you come out in the first half, you can't go back in. If you come out in the second half, you can re-enter in the second half. But you know what Doug and I both grew up with, the traditional soccer is you got your starting 11 and they go 90 minutes, and it's a little bit more of an Ironman approach to it. And college soccer, in my opinion, unfortunately, has turned into a little bit of, all right, let's get 4 or 5 new fresh legs on. Let's run. Let's chase. And there's not the strategic side that I think Doug and I grew up with a little bit. It's more about how athletic can we be, how fresh can we be, how quickly can we play forward. So it's an adjustment. But for our players, we talk about it often. You know, the approach that the international professionals in the World Cup take to those games is very different than ours. You see the starting 11 warming up. You see 3 or 4 on the side just doing some real simple warm-up stuff. But those 3 or 4 warming up, no, they're not going to play for 45, 60, 90 minutes. They might not play. So warm-ups are different. Everything is a little bit different when you're trying to prepare for 11 to play versus 22 or 26 to try to play in a game.
So let's circle back to Friday. You got Richmond coming in here. You have actually 2 home games to open your schedule, Friday and Monday, Richmond and North Greenville. But let's talk about this Richmond experience coming up. Mentioned it's the first official regular season event for the athletic calendar year here at Furman University. What do you know about Richmond? You said they have a new coach.
Yeah, they have a new coach. You know, they attract a very similar type student athlete that Furman does. So I think from that standpoint, we're going to be pretty similar. They've got 3 players, I think, on their roster that got significant minutes last year that they're going to be playing. They have a new coach, a new system. It'll be our first game for both of us. So scouting has been very limited. Don't have a lot of tape on them. So I think it's going to be good. I think for us, you know, no matter who we play, we're going to be very disciplined in the back. We talk to our back four and our goalkeeper. We are low risk in the back. We don't give up chances. And obviously we gave up 1 goal last year, so I think that approach works. I think we're going to be a fun team to watch. We like to throw players forward. We like to take players on. We like to create chances. We are not a sit back, bunker in, let's try to play for a tie, let's try to play for a set piece. That's not the style of our team. Our team is, we like to go forward, we like to run at players, we like to create chances. So I think it's going to be a fun environment, and certainly would encourage people to come out to support the Paladins on Friday night.
Looking at the schedule, talk about what the Southern Conference looks like. You're obviously going to be one of the teams with the proverbial target on your back. Who else will be a challenge? Yeah,
I think that the traditional top 3 are pretty set. You know, in the past it's been Furman, it's been Sanford, UNC Greensboro. That's been kind of the top tier. ETSU has a great program. They go with some highs and lows, a lot of international kids. But I think that the league right now is saying that those are the top 3 teams. And then everybody else is really sandwiched right there in the middle. And we don't have opponents that are tremendously weak anymore. And I'm talking about going back to 1995 when we started the program. There was a huge difference between where the top team was and where the bottom team was. I think we've got some top tier teams right now, and then anybody in the middle who any of them could win it, which is great for our league to see that people are obviously putting effort and energy into women's soccer, and it's going to be a really tough conference season this year. 16 regular season games, if I counted correctly, before the Southern Conference tournament. What will make this, in your eyes, a successful season? So I think the number 1 goal for us is bringing home another SoCon championship. And when we walk recruits into our beautiful stadium, they see banners, and they see lots and lots of banners. And we've got men's banners, women's banners, and they're seeing a lot of SoCon championships. So for us, it's all about winning the SoCon. Everything we do in the non-conference season is to help prepare us for that. Yeah. So we're gonna schedule teams non-conference that reflect what we're gonna face in the conference season. So we've got varied levels. We've got different levels of competition. We've got different environments. We'll be traveling to Kentucky this year. They've got a beautiful stadium. That'll be a great environment. We play in some really tough environments in the SoCon. So getting to a Clemson, getting to a Kentucky really helps us settle our nerves. So when we play in front of a big crowd at UNC Greensboro, we're like, hey, we've been here, we've done it before. So I think it really matches up nicely. We're trying to gauge rest for our players as well, and that's a big talking point with our sport right now on the men's and the women's side, is how much rest are we giving these players. So I think our season is spaced out very nicely right now, that we're not overworking our players. We're going to try to get away from a lot of those Friday night, Sunday afternoon combination games. With as hard as our players are working and as tough as they go, asking them to play on a Friday night at 7, they're done at 9 o'clock, 1 day of recovery, and then play again on Sunday morning. It's just a lot. And you wouldn't be able to do that for football, for example. Just wouldn't be able to turn around that quickly. So our schedule is spaced out very nicely this year.
And the other thing I noticed, if I remember last year's schedule, the number of home games you had early in the season, I mean, you were here a lot. This year, it's more spaced out. 3 home games in August, 4 in September, and 2 in October. So it's a little more spread out this year.
It is, and we're scheduling kind of 2-3 years out in advance. And then obviously, there are changes, and a coach may come or go. So it's always fluctuating for us, but trying to get a balance, which we have this year, I think is great. And obviously, as many home games as we can play, the better for us. We love being at home. We love our crowd. We love our stadium. And visiting teams want to come here. We had Maryland come here last year. We've got Oregon coming next year. Teams want to come to Furman University to play. We're a very good RPI game. So a lot of these teams want to come to us. They're willing to come to us because they know that getting Furman on their schedule helps their RPI as well. Yeah. So a lot of the Power Fives want to come to Furman University, which is a little bit unique to our sport.
Yeah, you don't get that in a lot of sports, quite honestly.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, obviously football is a crazy comparison, but in the last 5 years, we've had Alabama here, we've had Georgia here, we've had Auburn here, we've had Clemson here. Those teams aren't coming.
Yeah, none of which are going to be here at Paladin Stadium.
We would love to host them, and that invitation's out there. We'll let Dabo know, but it's unique to our sport that we're able to attract those types of teams.
All right, so Friday night, 7 o'clock, right?
We're excited. 7 o'clock.
Stone Stadium. Need to get a bunch of people there.
It would be nice. It would be really nice. We're looking forward to it.
You want to make any guarantees?
I do not, but thank you for asking. I'll make 0 guarantees.
I'll give you the opportunity anyway.
We will work really hard. I guarantee that.
All right. We're going to be able to do this on a regular basis during the season?
Absolutely. Would love to. Would love
great.
to.
All right. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
That is Andrew Burr, the women's soccer coach here at Furman.